sexual harassment and other harassment that we've been discussing. Now also, while you're sheriff, and I'll give you this to you, because again, it deals with the deputy, I don't want to put his name out there.
Certainly.
There was another Office of Professional Responsibilities investigation to a deputy who had lied. In this particular situation, I believe, lied about how he responded to a caller, and ultimately you all reviewed the recordings and determined he lied about that. If you can refresh yourself with that.
I mean, it's going to take me a minute to refresh myself.
Go right ahead.
Okay. After quickly reviewing it, I feel comfortable enough to try and answer some questions if you'll give me an opportunity to review if you ask.
Sure. And I think my only question is, ultimately you determined he lied, correct?
It was determined that he lied by his supervisors.
Okay.
That is correct.
And so you, as sheriff, dismissed him at that time for having lied.
So the way that the policy works in the Greenville County Sheriff's Office under me was when we had a deputy that was involved in a situation where they would, something would be brought to their attention for disciplinary action. The Office of Professional Responsibility, which is what you guys know probably as Internal Affairs, would investigate the complaint itself. They were a fact-finding group. That group would then submit what they found factually to the major, which was Tom Miller, and to the chief deputy, which was Marcus Davenport. And they would make a decision. If they made the decision that was together, if they both agreed on the decision, then I did not intervene at all. If they differed in their opinion, then I would step in and make the final call. So that's how the disciplinary proceedings happened, which is why I don't exactly recall this specific situation.
But you had signed on there to have him terminated.
My stamp is on here. Yes, sir. It's my stamp right there.
And they would consult you regarding that, correct?
My stamp?
No, not your stamp. They would consult you regarding the termination.
They would let me know that they agreed or disagreed, and if they agreed, then whatever disciplinary action they decided was enacted.
And that's because you have that authority as sheriff. Your deputy served at your pleasure, correct?
The deputy served at the pleasure of the sheriff. That's correct.
All right. And as part of that too, when you talk about things that Drew Pinciari testified to, and that Chad Ayers testified to, and then they themselves, they were under your command at that time, right?
So, ask me that again, Drew Pinciari. I'm sorry, I was caught up in the name Pinciari. It's Pinciari.
I always pronounce it wrong, but we'll just say Drew.
Okay, Drew. I understand.
Drew and Chad Ayers, they were both under your command, of course, while they worked for you, correct?
Yes.
And served at your pleasure at that point in time.
Yes.
So they would have a legitimate fear that if they did something that you didn't like, they might be fired.
Well, that's why we created the new command staff the way that it was, the leadership team. I'd hoped that would dispel any problems. That was the original problem. We were kind of hoping to get away from that.
And as a matter of fact, there was a time that you told Savannah that she served at the pleasure of the sheriff.
I did. I told her that she served at the pleasure of the sheriff. That's correct. All sheriff's office employees serve at the pleasure of the sheriff.
But when you tell her that, you don't tell her there's a whole line of things that have to go through or be done in order to do anything like fire her under your new policy, right?
I'm sorry?
You don't go over this new policy thing with her when you tell her that. You just said she serves at the pleasure of the sheriff.
Savannah knew what the policy was. She was there when it was implemented from the beginning and bore witness to the whole thing.
And let me ask you this, the blog came out in August of 2017, correct, Savannah's blog?
Okay.
And then I believe it was October 16th of 2017 that the complaint was filed.
Okay.
That sound right to you? That's correct?
Those days sound pretty close.
Okay, and then it was the 19th of October that you did the press conference where you committed to the appropriate contact.
Yes.
All right. And was it after the complaint on October 16, 2017? Is that when you told your wife what had happened?
After the lawsuit was filed?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And that's because when the lawsuit was filed, a lot of these recordings were released, weren't they?
I knew they were released with the lawsuit. I don't know if they were released anytime before that.
Right. And so, but I mean, they were released with the lawsuit on October 16th.
Okay.
When it's filed, correct?
Yes, sir. They were released with the lawsuit, absolutely.
And so that's when you decided to tell your wife what happened, correct?
I did. I told my wife. I mean, there was no more hiding at that point. So that's why, I told her. I just knew that it was going to be over at that point.
So, but the blog came in August and you didn't tell her about it.
The blog came in August. I did not tell her that.
As a matter of fact, you denied it to her, didn't you?
I did. I did not have an affair.
Just like you denied it to others.
I did not deny it to the members of the sheriff's office, as we discussed yesterday. There was a very different way that was handled.
So you're telling us that you told a number of members of the sheriff's department that you had an affair, but you did not tell your wife?
No, prior to telling my wife, the only one that I specifically remember asking me directly if I had sex with Savannah Neighbors was Ty Miller. And I told Ty, yes, we did.
So is it your
And then I won't go into attorney-client privilege at that point.
So is your contention then that you didn't say anything to anybody after the blog came out about whether this was true?
Man, it was a whirlwind. As soon as that blog came out that morning, I very specifically remember hearing the allegations from the bank. And although I was not named or mentioned specifically, it was Savannah's blog. She had already put it out to a lot of people, had sent it around to a lot of people. And I don't know if I learned at that point or another point that she had verbally said that it was me, or that she just sent a message. I don't recall how that went. But I do remember that morning going straight to the general counsel, which is the attorney for the sheriff's office, and Marcus Davenport, and telling them to immediately contact SLED, request them to come up and conduct an investigation into this, because the allegations were, whether she named me or not, I wanted an investigation done into it immediately.
Finished? Sure. Anything else you want to add?
I'm sure there's probably something else I can think of, but
Well, let's just go to questions and answers and try to do it that way. So the only reason really that you told your wife is because the tapes made it obvious, correct?
that is correct.
And that's kind of been your MO. If it's not on tape, I didn't say it. Isn't that right?
No, there are a lot of things that are not on tape, but there are a lot of things that were lied about on the stand by other people that did not happen.
And if it's not on tape, I don't remember it. There's a lot of you just don't remember a lot of things.
No, I mean, I don't think that's
Despite being sheriff who, had a background in law enforcement, give attention to detail, those sorts of things, right?
attention to detail is important.
But you don't, the most significant details of this, you really don't remember, do you?
I think I probably, as far as certain details of this went, I wanted to forget it. As far as the affair went, I just wanted to put it out of my mind. I was really trying to, suppress the fact that I had an affair with my wife. There are probably some things that I don't remember because I didn't want to remember certain things. As far as the actual affair itself went, but the conversations and things like that. If I'm reminded of a conversation or a phone call, sometimes I can pick up and remember it. You said it yesterday yourself. My memory's just weird like that.
And when you did the press conference on October 19th, you never mentioned Savannah Neighbors' name, did you?
I don't think I mentioned Savannah's name in the press conference.
One final thing.
Yes, sir.
A number of times when I've asked you about your intentions as we go through these tapes and your intentions to have a sexual relationship with Savannah Neighbors, especially in the trip to Reno, you said things like, you kept saying something to the effect that it sounds like that. I'm going to ask you to answer yes or no on this question, and certainly you can explain it afterwards if you have to. But yes or no? Because I don't want to hear it sounds like that again. That's not an answer that answers the question. Your intent with Savannah at that time in those phone calls is to get her to go to Reno with you to a conference so that you could sleep with her in Reno.
Yes, that is exactly what it sounds like.
Okay, let's take out the phrase "that's what it sounds like," because I want just yes or no.
You do not get to determine my answer, sir.
Sir, you're equivocating your answer when you say it sounds like that.
That's exactly what it sounds like. One can.
And it sounds like that because that's what you did, correct?
That is what I did. Those audio conversations are me. Like I said yesterday, I'm not going to run from that. Those are me. It absolutely sounds like that. And yes, if I were going to Reno or somewhere like that, we probably would have had another affair.
And the actions were yours.
The actions.
Yes. Trying to set that up for you.
The actions were mine.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, go back to the sexual harassment that you mentioned about that was disciplined. Do you remember the facts of that case without looking at his notes?
The facts of the case with sexual harassment?
That, well, first off, you do.
I do. Unfortunately, he was a good friend.
I understand. Tell this jury what that involved.
It's explicit, and I apologize. There were the gentleman in question, the deputy, was also a part-time photographer, and he unfortunately took explicit photographs of himself in still frame ejaculating, and sent those to a female deputy for whatever reason. She spoke with her supervisor about it, at which point her supervisor approached others, and then it went from there. Pretty hard to say, good friend.
Was that picture invited or requested by her?
Not that I recall from that file at all. I do not recall it being requested.
So that was clearly, how would you classify that sexual nature of that as being wanted or unwanted?
I would say it was unwanted.
The sexual encounter you had with Savannah Neighbors, was it wanted or unwanted?
It was wanted.
The one about lying, do you remember the facts of that one without looking at it?
No, sir.
Okay, could I have that one? Could you review those just briefly?
Certainly.
Or as much as you need to answer the question about it.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Fine. What was the nature of the lie in that one?
It would appear that a person whom we call a complainant, who referred to as a complainant, contacted the front desk of the sheriff's office, which is a different area than dispatcher communications. It's not 911, it's a non-emergency number. They contacted the front desk, and they, it appears that in this, the deputy says that the complainant was demanding a deputy show up to the scene of whatever he had going on, and that that was incorrect. The deputy.
What was the lie the deputy told?
It says in here, it says that the complainant was more than cooperative and had never been adamant or demanded anything. But yet the deputy still requested that a road unit or a uniform patrol respond to the call.
So that was a lie involving the actual performance of his official duties?
That is correct.
And for that he was disciplined?
For that he was disciplined.
Because he lied about his official duties?
That is correct.
Okay. If you could, if you can get from the judge recording one that was played in court yesterday.
Certainly.
And if you return to it, it'd be the statement by her after your Bill Clinton comment.
Which, what page?
It should be on about, I ain't got the same copy you got.
Okay.
It should be on about the second page.
Okay. About after my Bill Clinton comment, I got you.
You got that?
Let me find it.
What was her comment after that?
I gotta find it first.
Okay.
After the Bill Clinton comment,
Yes.
her response, well, I'm just saying, that's way too risky. I'll go with you if there's 2 rooms, but I'm not gonna go and share a room with you, like on paper. You know what I mean?
And like on paper meaning what?
If we could show that 1 room had been comped, then the county was paying for it.
So, did she say she wasn't going to Reno with you, period?
No, sir.
Did you get a per diem for the trip to Charlotte?
A per diem check was given to me for going to Charlotte by, I think then Sergeant Jeff Ward, and I asked him what it was for, and he said it was for the trip to Charlotte for the budget meeting, and I returned the check to him. I said, I don't want a per diem check. I didn't need to receive any money for going to Charlotte.
Thank you, that's all.
Yes, sir.
Just briefly.
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me that it's part of your official duty not to violate the law, correct?
Part of my official duty not to violate.
To not violate the law. In other words, it's to follow the law.
That's correct.
To enforce the law.
Yes.
And that includes employment law. All laws, correct?
I don't know that I ever took an oath to enforce employment laws, no, sir.
You took an oath all laws, correct? To keep yourself updated.
I don't know what the oath says, but I never interpreted that as employment laws.
You don't know what the oath says that you took?
I mean, it's been a while since I took the oath.
Now, if, of course, you're managing the folks that you had to fire there, right, in those unfortunate situations, correct?
I was the sheriff, so everyone worked under the sheriff, that's correct.
And so if anybody follows the rules and regulations in the sheriff's department, it should be you.
Yes, that would be the example set.
And if you were in your position as sheriff and a lieutenant did exactly what you did in this case, from being in Charlotte and having sex with a subordinate, to coming through all the various things that happened between them, and then finally where these tapes are trying to get her to go to a conference with him and force her to do that in order to have sex with her, you would fire that lieutenant, wouldn't you?
They very well could be fired, but not charged with a crime.
But you would have fired that lieutenant, wouldn't you?
It would depend on the circumstances, but that lieutenant would absolutely could have possibly been fired, yes.
We know the circumstances, and the circumstances of this case, you would have fired him for doing the same thing you did.
Probably, depending on the circumstances, again, but yeah, probably.
No further questions.